All right, we made it. We survived the drive-by shootings. We survived the simulated bombs. We survived the late-night gunshots of July 4th, 2017. It is now the 5th. It's the day after. Don't you just love this? Like the day after the 4th of July. 'Cause there's always a build-up and build-up and build-up. Just like there's a build-up to Christmas and a build-up to Thanksgiving and a build-up to New Year's. I mean, there literally is a sense of anticipation for January 2nd in whatever year it may happen to be. Another thank you to Andrew. That was a very good email that he sent. And I invite others to send a message if you like on the content. As stated in a recent video, you can leave a comment on YouTube, a comment on the front page. Or you can go to Twitter, or you can go to Facebook. I want to talk about a few things, but here's a book here called DNA of the Gods. Haven't read it yet. And I talk about being at the thrift store. I talk about being at garage sales. I talk about being at the library, where this is actually purchased for a quarter. A quarter, believe it or not. Yet all this knowledge about the Assyrian Mesopotamia Inky Enlil story. Now, let me just say this about the ancient world. There is a certain amount of cultural, religious, and it can get a little bit racial. Right? Here's Lilith over here. Now, there is a misinterpretation, I think, in the West of some of these belief systems. I certainly overall think there's a big creator, big G, if you will, the ultimate God, but I prefer to use, like others, the term creator because God is often misused. And it sounds like we come from this period of a lot of deceptions, the priest class, right, being used to deceive the population, mystery schools, and whatnot. See, the greater reality is there's not an accident why you're here on the planet. You may have a certain task to do. There may be information in your genes. Have you ever considered this? Have you ever thought about DNA encoded with knowledge and information that you can access, that you can upgrade, not by channeling particular perceptions of angels and deities, which I think are really archons and deceivers, what the Christians will call demons in disguise. But I think there is knowledge within us. And I've said for years, the path to the ultimate truth lies within. And I believe that because of the mother that I had, regardless of my upbringing, because of the genetic differences that were introduced to the Ansari, my perceptions have always been somewhat enhanced as a result. Unfortunately, I live in such a fall world that I'm in defensive mode with regards to the racism instead of being more focused on enhancing my gifts. So as a modern Gnostic, and sometimes I pinch myself, it's happening quite often. Sometimes my gifts don't feel like gifts. They feel like curses. And I get upset. I've expressed some of that with you. When my warnings aren't noticed, when people don't realize that for some reason it is a phenomenon, certain things I am calling. And with regards to robots replacing humans at the job place, that's regular news. I remember writing about this mini sci-fi when I was 16, about waking up, coming up in a time machine in the year 2035, and everybody having these little identification mechanisms. And if they were walking around the modern transhumanistic reality where robots were making food, as I was writing that sci-fi novel, if they were found without a bracelet, the robot would neutralize the threat, so to speak. So I wrote about other things I imagined when I was a young man, changes in the sun, a red sky, akin to nuclear warfare, or the aurora borealis, extended perhaps for days to weeks on end, which without a doubt would be affecting our nation's grid power. And without that, there could be a lot of major changes within our system. We're talking about the ultimate, you know what, hitting the fan situation. So I believe that I was born to see something amazing, and that my soul picked the combination of genetics. And now, at the age of 37, we're several years into this demonization of human beings. They're not really mixed race. They have a variety of genetics. They have a variety of information to work with. Is there something wrong with picking the best from each side? Apparently there is in the new America. And this is just something that's going to go away. I'm concerned they'll even use AI and robotics to expand the genocide that the military has started. With regards to DNA of the gods, the Anunnaki creation of Eve, and the alien battle for humanity, there's going to be different perspectives on the Sumerian history. But for all intents and purposes, many of the people of the Middle East, they may be put in this box of Muslim and thus marked for extermination, but on a genetic level, they're not born Muslim. They're born the modern descendants of the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians. And I'm sure most of you do know that there was a belief system before Islam that encompassed a great knowledge of the sun, for example, Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is not something that I've studied. I've studied the sun, however, and apparently that is very much forbidden in the world of Islam. It's considered haram, akin with worshiping a false idol and deity. And it's true that there were unmindful understandings of the sun when we look at the Aztec sacrifices to the so-called gods. But that doesn't mean that there isn't something magnificent about the sun at the center of our solar system and it being responsible for climate change on our planet, it being responsible, it being a root cause of a lot of other factors, the sun bringing life to our planet, the sun bringing energy to things, the sun being necessary for the growing of food, the growing of food being necessary for a population, the sun and its influence in growing civilizations, and the sun and its influence in civilizations being erased off the face of the earth. This is apparently something that's scoffed at not only by modern atheists, flat earthers that say that there is no real sun, it's just a light up there 3,000 miles above. And then you have the religion saying, hey, by the way, it's really forbidden if you look at that direction. Just keep your energy and focus over here at what we say is the big God. And don't look way beyond all that is. So I have come to this awareness, not just recently, but I'm feeling more confident discussing it, that I am accessing encoded DNA information, slowly but surely. And it almost seems, and I have a few people I can talk about this behind the scenes, the spiritual warfare, but it connects in with the archons. And why I started discussing the archons and having experiences with the archons, and thus learning how to defend myself from the archons and move out of dense population centers where there's a higher concentration of entities feeding off human pain, suffering, misery, people getting hooked up in relationships and people breaking up, and the heartbreak involved, as well as the DNA witchery, where people that are infected by the love bite and whatnot hook up with people that are really there to lead them astray, get a readout on their DNA. Because behind the scenes, wow, if we as human beings could see everything that was going on in a room, but we don't. We are limited to being able to see a limited percentage of what is really there, and it's incredibly finite with regards to all that's there. Now, most humans know this, but with regards to energies and spirits, they may know the scientific part of it, a visible light. But what about what that really suggests? In a world where it's not the craziest idea to go out and ghost hunt or to believe in ghosts. It's very much a part of our culture. If you don't believe me, go down to your local Walmart and look at the little red box and look at all those terrifying horror films. And of course, movies today are much more violent than they were in the past. Those aren't exactly movies that I would watch because I can feel an evil coming from that. The things that a lot of humans are thinking is just random, is not evil, is in fact evil. And what is it about what I'm reading in my DNA that's identifying not only this evil in this world, but how they're attempting to control human genetics, how they're attempting to control the destiny of mankind, how they're attempting to entrap souls into the Samara or soul prison by demonizing people around the world and then convincing people to go out and kill those people. On the side of radical Islam, absolutely. You talk about people that are brainwashed to go out and kill for their 72 versions or whatever. There's obvious archon influence over the religion of Islam. Alex Ansari said it. The archons are behind many of the world's major religions. And a lot of cases, for this has been made. On the Christian side, you have the comparison between the Nag Hammadi text and the book of Genesis. And according to the Nag Hammadi text, those entities right here that we're talking about were not necessarily the true creators, but they created a system, they created a priest class, and we have generations after generations of these religions that came out of this world. But just because someone is of a particular genetic line, why should that line be demonized because of the past? What about people that use that encoded DNA information for the highest good? Not to manipulate people into one box or another. I'll just be frank with you. Another friend of mine that's picked up on stuff regarding my soul in ways they've tried to reroute my life's destiny away from where it is now to something else that never came to be. Someone shared with me their perspective from their intuition that they had a plan for me to serve them. And they've been angry at me for years for sharing forbidden knowledge. And I'm starting to get that hit as well. That everything that I've been talking to you for years now about archons, archon mind hijack, me being in situations to where for whatever reason I don't have a place to park because people in a certain region may not trust me for some reason that they don't even understand, especially when I have a connection with them on Facebook, because Facebook is monitored by other intelligences involved in energy sabotage. You're still following me. Don't pretend you're not, because what was considered crazy 10 years ago is now reality. Absolutely. We deal with energy backlash and sabotage when we are going up against the overlords. I believe we can protect ourselves from their influence, from their attack. I don't necessarily, at present, believe we can protect the minds of others, including potential significant others or lovers. In fact, the very people that may want to come to jump our bones, so to speak, in many cases, when I look at some of the women that have been attracted to me, and I look at the patterns and I look at some of the bizarre occultic metaphysical interests and the real lack of, it's like, here I am on this path. Where are the people from my past? There are people in my past that came into my path to literally suck off my energy or redirect my attention. I understand some of you may think, well, Alex, that's just human nature. I think when you see human nature go more in that direction, it's more of a sign of an archon mind hijack. I don't think it's really healthy for us to be, and it's not really in our history to be using social media, to be redirecting people's psychic energies. Okay, you're following me? In the past, we used to have to actually sit down and get to know each other. Maybe we were from the same tribe, but now things have been split out in this modern Tower of Babel with technology replacing human relationships. But not to go too far outside of that tangent. But I think that there is something that I'm experiencing as an individual as a result of those specific combination of genetics that most of this world seems to be afraid of, or is denying that there is a demonization going on of those that aren't perceived to be of a pure white, although their skin isn't really white, but a perceived white race. And it's actually the opposite. There's obviously some sort of a program to maintain a sense of mind control and keep people inside the box, not outside the box. And if they go outside the box, there's a program that's been in our planet for a long, long time to isolate Gnostics like myself, people that can see reality as it is. I'm not really afraid with this knowledge. In fact, I'm a little excited, but I feel like it's forbidden knowledge. And the more I look at how there's something very deep regarding the solar cycles and its connection to the evolution of human consciousness, and how they at times manipulate human affairs because they understand human physiology. What is it within my imagination that thinks it understands how they manipulate human physiology? That question is always burned within my mind. And there are very few people in this world that I can consult on that level as a soul. Why do I know this? Now, a lot of this isn't conspiracy theory. It's spiritual theory. And this is what I said to a woman from Iran who immigrated to the Netherlands about 7 years ago. She's 40 years old. She's found one of my videos discussing loneliness. I got excited that someone that I perceived to be somewhat of my kin, at least on my father's side. And so she assumed that maybe I was Iranian because of the last name. Some of you may know that Ansarys all over the world. There are also Ansarys that are Chinese in the Philippines, not just Afghanistan, not just Iran, not just Pakistan. The famous comedian Aziz Ansari with an I, um, he is from Pakistan, I believe. I don't believe he's a Muslim. I think that's interesting. I think that also needs to be, if that is true, seen more often. Non-Muslims from the Middle East involved in pop culture. So the Muslim stereotype doesn't stick and hold, because I know there are other people of Middle Eastern backgrounds that are not Muslims. And the left and the right has really yet to come up with a definition, a verbal definition or a word for what many of these people by the millions in the US could be classified as. Muslim doesn't apply to non-Muslims. So left and the right is still very late into the game with recognizing hate crimes against people based on their race, not religion. She proceeded to tell me why she befriended me. Now, with regards to intuition, a lot of people, before we get into this, don't believe in psychic awareness or intuition. And what I'm now convinced of is this combination of genetics has activated some sort of awareness, which actually triggers a lot of pain in me, which some of you don't understand. And I turn away a lot of you because I'm expressing pain that you're not receiving, that you're not tapping into, or a particular reality, future vision that you're not also seeing. And I attribute that to the way I'm decoding this reality. I'm decoding this reality and I'm experiencing human emotions and seeing colors. I think I probably have a different visual experience, although I don't see things floating around, but visual colors and things like that do kind of stand out. I'm also wearing sunglasses to protect my eyes as we go into solar minimum and get ready to experience more cosmic rays. I want to say hi to Jessie on Facebook. I want to thank her for just the general empathy. But I said to her, I'm noticing a quickening where some of us are realizing some of these intellectual, spiritual, physiological, biological understandings. There's a quickening taking place. And I've also said after the solar flares clear, after the smoke clears, right, and all that knowledge settles down, we can make sense out of that data that's been lingering, within our minds for a while. Oh, now it makes sense. Oh, now the dots are connected. And I'm starting to feel this right now with regards to this. Why are they demonizing those ancient bloodlines? Why is there a genocide of those people? At the same time, why has the deceiver been using radical Islam and aspects of Islam to enslave the people of the Middle East? So you think about ISIS and the intelligence agencies and who is really running Saudi Arabia? Are they reptilians? What the fuck? I mean, what kind of Middle Eastern kingdom works with the Chinese and the Russians and the West? And yes, they are all working together. Get a clue. So as the one world government, the modern Rome, China, Russia, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and aspects of the other Asian worlds and India. Looks like it's been involved for many years also. There's also tensions between India and China. But without getting into geopolitics, they have used these nation states to carve up the Middle East. What are they looking for in the land of the DNA of the gods? Is it a spaceship? Is there something now in Iraq and Afghanistan that the powers that be do not want to let go of? Why have the powers that be, including Britain, including Russia, including Alexander the Great, including Genghis Khan, other than Afghanistan being very strategic in that particular part of Central Asia? Are there any other reasons why Afghanistan has been strategic for so long, knowing that it has such an ancient past? Ancient Sumeria, the land before borders, the land before the border of Iran and Afghanistan, the land before the border of Iran and Iraq. What was this ancient land, Sumeria? What happened there? And then we look at this rise of Islam that has pushed out Zoroastrianism. You know that I talk about the sun. And the sun was apparently discussed by elements of the ancient world, albeit there were some unconscious uses of the sun by the priest class. But see, that's an unconscious use of the knowledge. What is an unconscious or a conscious use of the knowledge of the sun without worshiping the sun? It is there, and I will continue to look. But without a doubt, I think I've hit a nerve in the apex of this matrix, and it was long ago. And it was when I went public as a person on the internet, which is surveilled by forces known and unknown. And I began to speak about things in 2006, 7, and 8, including the only person to talk about the upcoming war being controlled by an evil. Let's go back to that woman. So it hurts, especially when it's a Middle Eastern woman, when I'm called a conspiracy theorist, because she talked about why she defriended me from Facebook. And I talked about having that intuition. Like I clicked and I went, oh, she defriended me. Because I felt intuitively that sense of judgment. And it was in judgment to my posts. And she started this dialogue about judging based on posts and me being perceived as a very different person on Facebook than my YouTube videos, the person that she was drawn to talk to. And this is something that happens to a lot of women when they are interfacing with technology and they're not actually talking with someone. They're not actually looking in someone's eyes. Or if women find my video and they're like, oh, I'm lonely and I heard you talk about loneliness and I thought you were Iranian. So instead of actually find out your spiritual theories, which aren't conspiracy theories, I'm going to put you into a box and contact you out of self-interest because I'm lonely, but judge you when you don't get back to me soon enough. Because I can feel this heavy emotion coming from her. And I didn't respond for a day or two. I stepped back going, that's some heavy stuff. Loneliness as a Middle Eastern person in a mostly white area, that I identify with. I'm going to take this one slowly. And maybe I can get some empathy from her and understanding as to where my ancient roots come from, because Afghanistan, which the father was born in, I was born in the States, but 1/4 of me, by the way, not half, but 1/4 comes from that Ansar line. The other fourth has an East India root. And on the mother's side, we have Welsh and we have Austrian from the Nagel line. It's a very sick society that comes up with words like mutt and dog to describe a human being that comes about through a combination of genetics. I don't feel like a mutt. I feel like I've incarnated into a very dark world that enjoys putting down diverse elements of biology, especially when they come with ideas that can help free human slavery. There are so few of you, and I think so few of you that are out there. I thank you. I thank you for being there. I thank those of you that are supporting, that are donating. I thank those of you that aren't even donating, that are supporting energetically by being in support of me sharing this truth. I thank you, whether you've donated 1 penny or whether you've donated $100 or you've never donated at all. As long as you're there on a vibrational level that's higher than that of a, don't talk about that, I just want to hear about conspiracy theories. And see, it would be nice if women like that would get to know the real Alex instead of let technology and Facebook paint a picture. Because that little Facebook interface, right? It really clouds the judgment. And so I went through all the posts, which were actually 90% about hate crimes. But now that's a conspiracy theory, even to a Middle Eastern woman who just doesn't want to see that. And see, I think people like her and the Syrian girl that I met earlier this year, who was also interested. She specifically, I'm not going to blame the current one, but the Syrian girl was specifically seeing that if I was a guy with money, because she was in a financial situation, she had no respect for the actual content that I discuss or the things that I have an interest in. Nor did her mother. This was some type of, oh, this guy, Ansari. Ansari? Ansari, yeah. You might be friend, partner. And it's like this label, what's your pedigree? And the other thing with all these Iranian women, what they like to ask me first is, you're Iranian, right? Or a Persian girl speaks, a girl on YouTube who had a real attitude and was really shallow. That's why I blocked her. All these people are blocked. She had said, "You're not Persian, are you?" So that was an Iranian that saw a big illusion of separation between an Iranian and an Afghani, or an Ansari from that part of the world, or an Arab, Persian versus Arab. But what is the ancient root of the Persian, the Arab? It's found literally in the ancient world of Sumeria. And these people have been divided. You have literally the Tower of Babel. You have racism in the Middle East. You literally have like major demonic archonic activity in the Middle East taking place now. There is no excuse for there to be a lack of people from that part of the world that are speaking truth and knowledge. For whatever reason, this stands in the face of the white supremacists that even continue to watch this channel. And why do they continue to watch this channel? For knowledge and information. For knowledge and information that they won't consciously admit they're looking for. That's why they keep coming back. They thumb down, they thumb down, they thumb down, but they keep coming back for more. Why would it take someone like me? Why would it take someone like Tamim Ansari, who had a white mother and an Afghan father, an Ansari? Why would he be the first Afghan immigrant and really the only Ansari to write anything? This guy doesn't like me. He thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist. He's just like the other Persians and Arabs and Afghans that put me into a box. Doesn't matter. I will still respect his work. There's another book he wrote. It was published after 9/11. It's about his childhood. It's about his upbringing. It's about coming to America in the 60s and being well received. The land before time, 9/11, the time of 9/11. My father also has a very positive immigrant story coming here in the 60s and 70s. His son, who's actually born in America and of this culture, would be received differently. But why? Why would an evil, degenerate society hell-bent on global warfare, on vaccines, on violent pornography, on Big Macs, on bombs upon bombs upon bombs, that has its own women's slavery, white slavery? Why would that society have an interest in removing my kind off the face of the earth, or preventing the East and the West from meeting, the West and the East? As I say, the West and the East, the North and the South. There's something mystical about that. And there's something mystical about me. And despite the fact that there's enough to be terrified about on a moment-to-moment basis, and sometimes I feel like I'm in paralysis, who knows? Maybe some of us are going to be here on the earth a lot longer than expected. Hopefully, I will develop the right friendships in the future, regardless of their background, regardless of their ethnicity. Hopefully, I will continue to help more of you. Hopefully, the information, I don't have to say hopefully, it'll just happen. Just like this book literally landed in my lap. It's not the first time a book literally landed in my lap. Folks, how many of you know that I found this for a quarter also? Quarter? That quarter? What was it about that quarter? I found this book randomly outside a thrift store in Montrose, Colorado. And if you're in Montrose, say hi sometime. More friends in the western state of Colorado. That wasn't an accident. I was meant to find this and read that what I've been discussing in my videos for years and years and years exists in sci-fi because it's based in reality. With that, folks, I want to thank you for watching. If you would like to contribute to my work on a monthly basis or one-time basis, I'd appreciate that. Information down below. Talk to you next time.